Okay, basar b'chalav. B'sha'a tova mutzlachat. Let's just see what we have here. We're starting to Siman Pei Zayin. Okay. Be'ezo basar noheg din basar b'chalav v'hech nikra bishul. I just want to read the first couple of seifim here, and that will frame for us what we're going to talk about. Okay? Okay, Katuv b'Torah, Lo tevashel gdi b'chalev imo, Gimel pa'amim. Okay? Echad, we'll see that in the Gemara, that's Dat Rabbi Yishmael. Okay? No, it's not Dat Rabbi Yishmael that it says it 3 times in the Torah. That's a fact. Dat Rabbi Yishmael is the halachic ramifications of the fact that it says that 3 times in the Torah. Okay? Echad, who asked me about biblical criticism? Echad.
In our version.
Okay, in our version of the. Okay, so this is going up on the internet with the kid. Okay. Echad le'isser bishul, ve'echad le'isser achila, ve'echad le'isser hana. Okay, v'hotzi achila b'lashon bishul lomar she'eno asur min haTorah ela derech bishul. That's why, the obvious question in terms of the pshat. The Torah knows very well how to say things are usher to eat. So why does the Torah not say that you can't eat basar b'chalav? Because as we have to say 3 times that you can't be mavashal basar b'chalav. So it's coming to teach you derech bishul, right? Aval midrabanan asur b'chol inyan. Okay. So we have nisur achila, we have an isur bishul, and we have an isur hana. So one of the questions we're going to have to deal with is what is the relationship between those 3 isurim? And we'll see what that question means when we deal with it. Okay? What is the relationship between them? And that does have to do with the question of why then did the Torah not formulate an isur achila and just say it in terms of bishul? So it's a question in terms of pshat. The Rambam has a different answer, by the way. The Rambam in Machlot Asurot that the Torah uses the lashon of bishul, lomar afilu bishulo asur. Of course you can't eat it, right? You can't even cook it. Okay? So that's a different take, which we'll see. Okay, what the ramifications of that is. Okay? And what is then derech bishul? What is derech bishul? What about, we know that the word bishul is means 2 different things. Bishul means it's a generic term for all sorts of cooking. But it's also a specific type of cooking. It's cooking in water. Bishul as opposed to afia, as opposed to tzliya, as opposed to tigun, as opposed to ishun. Right? There are all these different ways of preparing food with heat. Okay? They are in general called bishul, but bishul is one of those ways. So it's confusing. Right? When the Torah says lo tevashel, what does that mean? What about tzli? Halacha l'maisa question: can you make a cheeseburger midoraisa? It's not bishul; it's tzliya, right? Okay, so that's another issue. Now these issues are dealt with here, and I hope to get to them still tonight. We will see the Nofsei Kalim here already talk about that. Okay, it is very interesting in terms of relationship to Shabbos, because in Shabbos also you have a question of bishul. In the Mishnah, it's afia, right? So what's the av? If you're solda on Shabbos, is it an av or is it a tolada? It's a machlokes between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi, actually. And it actually might have ramifications for how I understand what goes on here. Okay? Then, Gdi lav dafka, if bet. Dehu adin shor seva eis. Okay? In other words, the extrapolation is to all behemot tahorot. It didn't say anything about chayot tahorot. Right? Okay? Well, that's a steer in the Rambam. Gdi lav dafka, du adin shor seva eis, v'lo shna b'chalav aim, v'lo shna b'chalav acheret, right? The chalav of a different, right? Ela sha diber hakatuv bahoveh. Okay, that's the chalav that you generally have around. Okay. Eino noheg ela b'basar behemat tahora, B'chalav behema tahora. Aval basar tahora b'chalav tme'ah. O basar tme'ah b'chalav tahora. Mutarim b'bishul u'b'hana'ah. It's obviously not mutar ba'achila, because it's basar tameh or chalav tameh, but that's not an isur basar b'chalav. Just the isur of eating machot asura. What?
Sorry, this is what I meant before for the reason of proving.
Right, you want to prove it the other way around, right? Yeah.
It was
Oh no, it's
just
clearly that it's usur.
From this source.
This can't be a source. It's usur. We know it's usur.
No, we know it's usur.
But where is it from? That was different.
Okay.
Okay. Ubasar chaya ve'of afilu b'chalav tahora mutar b'bishul u'b'hana'ah va'af ba'achila eino asur ela midrabanan. Okay, so you have this idea of basar b'chalav midrabanan, which, since it's derabanan, we're not going to get into today basar b'chalav derabanan, but we just be aware, right? I'm sure we all know this, that oaf is midrabanan. Not everybody agrees to this. And chaya, according to the Mechaber, is derabanan. It's a steer in the Rambam. Whether basar chaya is basar b'chalav minat Torah or basar b'chalav derabanan. The reason for that is that a chaya has chalav. Right? An oaf doesn't have chalav. Okay? All right. Aval dagim v'chagavim ein behem isur afil midrabanan. Okay? So this is where you get the heter for bagels and lox. Okay? Okay. V'nahagu. All right. So that's it. Let me just see here. Skip to Seif Vav. Hameushan, like smoking. V'hamevushal b'chamei Tveria. It's not fire, which is causing the cooking. Ein lo kinalav. So there's no malkot. V'chein hamevashel basar b'mei chalav. That's when you have they used to have anybody eat Lebanon anymore? Anyway, all right. So there's the water part that separates from this. So that's mei chalav. That's not considered chalav in Torah, right? O chalav meita, or chalav which is extracted from an animal after it died. Right? You shecht an animal, and there's chalav and there's milk in the udder. So that milk is not chalav min Torah. That's chalav meita. Okay. O b'chalav zachar, right, milk that comes from a male. Right. Oh, right, that's possible.
Is it?
Right? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It has to do with hormones. There's this thing, newborn. Okay, it's always good to have a doctor, right? What is it called? Witch's milk? When a newborn child, because it's nursing, it absorbs the hormones of the nursing mother. And the breasts of the baby produce milk, and you see a little bit tipa of milk. They call it witch's milk. It must have freaked people out, right? So it's possible. So it could be a male also. Because it has to do with hormones. Okay. Anyway, that's a separate thing. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay. So all these things are not considered chalav, right? Oh, shebishel dam b'chalav. Because dam is not basar. Not everything that comes from the animal is basar. Right? So dam is not considered basar. Dam b'chalav, patur. Ve'ein lochkim al achilato mishum basar b'chalav. Of course, you would get malchus for eating dam, right? But you don't get malchus for eating basar b'chalav, because dam is not basar. There's a very interesting ramification about this, I'll tell you parenthetically. So the Gemara says that kaved, that liver, is dam shenikrash. I don't know if this is, is that anatomically true?
It filters all of the blood.
Okay. But it's not, anyway.
There are cells that are liver cells that are not dam.
Right. Okay. Fine. Okay, I figured. But so the Gemara says it's a famous Gemara with Yalta, right? Yalta said, "Midi komanda asar nachmana sharlan kavatei," right? To make us feel good that there's nothing that's really asar, right? So anything the Torah asar, the Torah said something comparable with the same taste, the same time, is mutter, right? So in that list is asa lan dama, hitir lan kavda. Right? The Torah said that dam is asr, but says kaved is mutter. So the Gemara says that kaved is dam shenikrash. It's just coagulated blood. Okay, so what are the ramifications? So that's an agarita. Okay, it doesn't mean that that all the cells in the liver are blood, but
they have, when people get hepatitis, they get inflammation of the liver cell.
Right, and not the right. Okay, okay. I assume the other way. Right. Okay, whatever. But there's a Yerushalmi that says that asks about mivashel chalav be. How's it? Kaved bechet lamed bet. That's what it says, right? So is it kaved bechalav that the Yerushalmi is asking about, or kaved bechelev? Why should you ask chelev? Because chelev is a kaved is smooth, and maybe the chelev, which is aser, just runs off and doesn't get absorbed. So is that the question of the Yerushalmi? It's a question about chelev, or is it a question of chalav? And then, why should Yerushalmi be asking about Mubasel, Chalav, and Kaved? So there are Achronim who say it's because Kaved, just like Dam is not Basar, Kaved is not Basar, Kaved is Dam. And there was actually, there are Achronim which were Matir, B'di'evid. They didn't say the Chatchili you could do Mubasel, liver and milk. But there was a case, this is the case, it's in the end of in the Maram Shik, it's the last piece. So somebody was mutagain, we're starting from the end, but we talked about these issues already just now. Somebody fried goose livers in butter, okay? So here's we didn't learn the basics yet, right? But we talked about it already. So he was matir. He was matir goose livers in butter. It must have been very tasty, right? Why is he matir? Right? It sounds good, right? Right? Not chicken livers, goose livers. It must have been like something really special. So why was he matir? Let's listen to the heter. Because first of all, oaf is the rabbanon. Okay, we're on solid ground still, right? Then he says it's tigun, it's not bishul. So that's a machlokas that I also be the rabbanon. Okay. And then he threw this as the whopper. Kaved is not meat. So he was matir to all three, those three things. He took 3 drabanans and maybe kaved isn't meat, right? Wow. Would you rather eat that or have a woman be Masada Kedushin? Anyway, gam v'gam. Either way, gam. I don't know which way it is, but gam v'gam. Anyway, okay, so that's just like, you have these... So it's an agadita. He paskin. Imagine he paskin the frying liver case in butter. Al pi an agadita. I don't know. Whatever. But it's a Yerushalmi. Also maybe So you have a suffix Yerushalmi, a vadai agadita, and duck liver that you want to eat. Okay. So that's what we have. That's what we have here.
What about Toldus or?
Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. We're not going to tell us what we're now. Okay, and microwaves and whole business. Okay, so what we have here, what I want to deal with today, is the relationship. First, we want to look at the sources. Where does it come from? The basar b'chalav is asur b'achila, b'bishul, and b'hana. So we can go through just going through the sources, and based on the sources, we'll see. What is the relationship between those different isurim? And that is important in order to understand what the nature of the isurim are, and that also has ramifications. Okay? So let's begin. Let's begin with the isur. So we have 3 isurim, right? We have the isur bishul, the isur achila, and the isur hana. So let's start with the isur achila. Okay? So that's obviously, the Isser Bishul is one of the Pesukim in the Torah. We don't have to look too far. But in terms of the Isser, into the Isser Achila, we have a number of different sources. And the truth is, it's like Macbeth, right? We think it's the lady protesteth too much. If you have too many sources for an Isser, then it's a problem, right? But everybody does agree that it's Asr. But it's still Still an issue here. Okay, so what are the sources of the issue? Let's see. So we have on Kuf Yudal and Amud Bet and Chulin. First source is Rav Ashi, right? Rav Ashi says, right, Minayin, Amar Rav Ashi, Minayin lebasar b'chalav she'asur ba'achila, shenemar lo tochal kol to'eva. It's in the parsha of Machalot Asurot, one of the places where Basar B'chalav is Mofia. It's in the parsha of Machalot Asurot. Shenemar lo tochal kol to'eva, kol sheti'avti lecha harehu beval tochal. That's very interesting. Anything that I said, what is kol sheti'avti lecha? Is beval tochal? Is that anything that I said is usher for you to do, you can't eat. That's what it sounds like. So that means, just open it, that the isser to eat basar b'chalav is derived from the isser to be mevashel basar b'chalav. Okay? So that's one. I just want to put that out there. Let's continue with sources. Okay? Reish Lakish and Kuftet Vav Amud Aleph. Right? Amar Reish Lakish. Minayin l'basar b'chalav she'asur. Talmud lomar al tochlu mimenu na ubashel mevushal. Talking about Korban Pesach, right? That if there's an isser deoraita lo ta'aseh to eat a Korban Pesach either raw or if it's mevushal. Okay, it's mitzli eish. She'ein Talmud lomar mevushal. Ma Talmud lomar mevushal. Why does it say mevushal twice? Lomar lecha yesh lecha bishul acher shu kazeh. There's another place where there's, because you were mevashel, it's asur. Why is the Korban Pesach? You're smirking. Nobody sees that you're smirking, right? I mean, there's a he's smirking. There's a in Korban Pesach. Why is the Korban asur ne'esar ba'achila? Because the Torah said, don't be mevashel it, and if you mevashel it, you can't eat a Korban Pesach, which is mevushal. So it was the bishul that created the isser in Korban Pesach. Okay? And what Reish Lakish did here, he says that yesh lecha bishul acher shu kazeh. Now you could say it's just an external comparison. There's another case where there's an isser bishul and an isser achila. Just say it like that. Or maybe he's saying something more than that. He's saying that bishul can create an isser achila elsewhere, not only in Korban Pesach. And where might that be? Right? In Basar B'chalav, the bishul also creates an Isser Achila. Okay. Again, that's all I want to say about that right now. Okay? Next is Rebbe on Kuftet Vav Amud Aleph. That's the next thing. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan. It's on Amud Bet now. Yeah? What you don't like what Rebbe said, lo tochlenu b'basar b'chalav ha'katuv medaber. This is lo tochlenu a few times, right? L'gabe dam, right? Lo tochlenu basar b'katuv ha'katuv medaber. Ata omer basar b'chalav ha'katuv medaber v'eino b'chad mikol yisur shebetorah. Amarta tseu l'mad miyud gimel midot she'atorah nidreshet behem. Davar lamed minyano. Ma katuv medaber b'shnei minim. Afkan b'shnei minim. We're talking about kil'ai. What's talking about? Okay, 1 second. So then he concludes. This is Rebbe. Nafkle mihacha. Ne'emar kan ki am kadosh atal Hashem. V'ne'emar lahalan lo yeh kadesh b'bnei Yisrael. Ma lahalan b'hana'ah. Afkan b'hana'ah. Right. So there's a comparison here. This actually goes back. Did we talk about this? I think we did talk about it. Maybe one of the first meetings that we had at the beginning of the year. We talked about the nature of Machalot Asurot and the comparison between Biot Asurot and Machalot Asurot. So that's what's happening here. That just like there's a Hana'at Bi'ah, which is Asur, right? So there's a Hana'at Achila, which is Asur. Ki am Kadosh Ata. So that's how you know that Basar B'chalav is asur to eat. You can't get hana from it. So this ties together the Isra Hana and the Isra Achila. That also is a very interesting thing. Right? There's a Rambam about that, which we won't get to today. The Rambam in Perush HaMishnah. I don't know if you saw it. How many people got to the Rambam in Perush HaMishnah? You got to it? Okay, so he talks about a Nekuda Nifla'ah. Yes, he was a Nekuda Nifla'ah. The Rav made that Rambam famous. He called it the Nekuda Nifla'ah of the Rambam. Right? I don't know if it was famous before then, but the Rav made it famous. It's very fundamental understanding the relationship between Isurei Hana and Isurei Achila, and different types of possibilities of what the relationship could be, and different Isurim are related differently. When you have an Isur which is Asur B'Achila and Asur B'Hana, there are different types of models for that relationship, which the Rambam alludes to. Okay? All right, so that's Rebbe. And then we have Rabbi Yishmael, the Rabbi Yishmael Tana. This is famous. Lo tivashel gdi b'chalev imo gimel pamim, echad l'isur achila, v'echad l'isur hana, v'echad l'isur bishul. Okay? Okay, and then Isi Bar Yehuda, which is similar to Rebbe, Omer, Minay lebasar b'chalav she'asur, ne'emar kan ki am kadosh ata, v'ne'emar la'alan v'anshei kodesh tihun li, u'basar b'sadeh trefa lo tochelu, right? Ma lahalan asur, afkan asur. Okay? Then it says, Ve'en el v'achila b'hana minayin, and then there's a kal v'chomer from Orla. Okay. Okay, so we have, in terms of the Isra Achila, we actually have 5 different sources for the Isra Achila. Okay? Either you learn it out from Kol Sheti Avti Lecha, or you learn it out from Korban Pesach, or you learn it out from what Rebbe said, Lo Tochlenu, right? Which doesn't say beferish by...
blood?
What?
I think that's blood.
Yes, that's what I think, yeah. And then, or it's a Tanid, or the famous one which Rashi al Torah quotes, which is the one that Shulchan Aruch goes with which the Rambam quotes, of Tanid Rabbi Shmuel, the Gimel Pa'amim, and Isi ben Yehuda, ki am kadosh, ubasar basadeh treifa. And she learned it out from the Isra Achila of Treif. Okay? Now, that's in terms of the Isra Achila. In general, we can categorize it in 2 groups, I think. We'll talk about this later. One is somehow connecting it to the Isser Bishul, and the other looking at it independently. Okay, look at the Isser Achila independently of the Isser Bishul. Okay? Okay. Now, with regards to the Isser Hana, there are 6 different sources. But let's leave that, because I don't want to talk about Isser Hana today, because I don't want to go through the sources. But to round out the picture in terms of the Isser D'Oraisa, so there's 6 different sources for the Isser Hana. The 7th is an opinion of, just so you should know, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda on Kuftet Zayin Amid Aleph. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda holds that Bas B'chalav is Mutter B'Hana. Okay? That's important to know. We don't pass in that way, but you should just know there's one opinion in Tanaim that there's just an Isra Achila and an Isra Bishul Min HaTorah. Isra Hana is Midrabbanan, right? But even, for instance, the Rambam, who says that Isra Hana is Min HaTorah, there's no Malchus on Hana. Okay? That has to do with the relation to Isra Hana and Isra Achila. But Hana takes a secondary, in terms of its status, it's sort of demoted. Okay? All right, let's talk about the Isser Bishul and the relationship between the Isser Bishul and the Isser Achila. Okay? So we saw what the Mechaber quoted. Right, why does it say, why did the Torah be motzi the Isser of Basar B'chalav B'lashon Bishul? Right? V'hotzi achila b'lashon bishul. This is the Mechaber, Pei Zayin Aleph. V'hotzi achila b'lashon bishul. Lomar she'eino asur min haTorah ela derech bishul. So what does that mean, just in terms of pshat? It means that having a salami and cheese sandwich is mutter min haTorah. It's only asur if you eat basar b'chalav shemevushalim biyachad. That's what the Torah asur. Okay. Now, derech bishul might mean more than that, and that has to do with what is considered derech bishul, tigun, etc. Right? I don't want to talk about that now. But the question is, if the Torah said something is asur ba'achila, that's one isur. But it's only asur derech bishul, and bishul is another isur. So then you have to ask, so what is the relationship between these two isurim? You with me? It's a natural question. Okay? Now, from some of the sources, it would seem that the isur starts, right? Certainly if you take the no-brainer is the Korban Pesach Makar, right? If you say that, if you compare the isur bishul and achila in Korban Pesach to basa b'chalav, then why is the Korban Pesach asur b'achila? Because you were mevashel it, right? So the isur bishul, so the primary isur is to be mevashel it, and when you mevashel it, it creates an isur achila, right? So now talk about it in terms of basa b'chalav. The reason the Torah said lo tevashel is because that's what the Torah, that's what's really asur in a sense. What's asur is the Torah doesn't want, why, who knows, right? But the Torah doesn't want you to be mevashel basa b'chalav. And if you're over the isur of bishul, then the outcome is that it's asur to eat. It's almost like, right? It's asur to do it, and if you do it, b'meizik, right? Obviously, the Rabbanan thing there. If you transgress the isur, the outcome will be asur for you to eat. Okay? So then the isur starts with the isur bishul. Okay? And achila is sort of like, I'm not going to let you get hana, so to speak, from the isur that you did, so I'm not going to let you eat it either. Right? But it begins with the isur bishul. Okay? That's one way of understanding it. Now I want to take a look.
Are you being specific? It would only occur if you were over the isur?
Oh, hold on. There's room to talk about that. Let's, okay. That would be the ramifications. We'll see. There are Gemaras like that. Okay. But let's just take a look in the Gemara here. Let's start with a different sugya, where the Gemara almost explicitly formulates the question for us. Okay. If you look on Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, right, the part that I said is bold, yeah? Itmar. See that? Hamavashel Chelev B'chalav. Okay? Got that? It doesn't really matter which way you do it.
Okay, it doesn't
right,
matter
but I
at
think
all?
that chalev is solid and chalav is liquid, so you mavashel the solid and the liquid. So it would be chalev b'chalav, but I'm okay if you insist on chalav b'chalev. It doesn't matter. Okay? Alright? Alright, hamavashel chalev b'chalav. Yes? Chalev is an isukares. It's not asur b'hana. Okay, just to get the facts straight. Okay? Okay, hamavashel chalev b'chalav. And it's also fat is considered basar. Okay, so it's not like a dam issue. Okay? Rabbi Ami v'Rabbi Asi. Chad amar lokeh, v'chad amar eino lokeh. Lokeh for what? As presumably for the bishul, right? It says hamavashel, right? Nobody ate anything, right? So we have a machloket whether you get malkot for being mevashel chelev b'chalav. Okay? Now we want to analyze this machloket. Leima b'haka miflagei. Demand amar lokeh. Why should you be lokeh on the bishul? Kasavar iser chal al iser. What iser are we talking about? The iser basa b'chalav. What iser of basa b'chalav? Let's be specific. The iser achila of basa b'chalav. Yes? You understand why I'm saying that? Because a pu'ula can't be an iser chal al iser. An iser chal iser is something, we have an iser chal on a chayfetz, and then the chayfetz is asur already, and can you have another iser chal on that chayfetz? Right? So when it says, when it's talking about iser chal al iser, is now do I want to know, do I have basa b'chalav here? This chaylev, which is mevushal b'chalav, is it basa b'chalav? Because basa b'chalav is only an isur lav, and chaylev is an isur kares. So maybe you can't have an isur lav being chal an isur kares. That's what the sugi of an isur chal isur, which we're not going to get into. Okay, so man de amar lokes kasavar isur chal isur. Now let's spell out what that means. That since basar b'chalav was created, you in the chefza, you get malchus for the bishul. That's what that's saying. It's very important to get this crystal clear. Right? You got to spell it out. You have to unpack it. If it's man de amar loke kasavar isur chalal isur. Basar b'chalav was created here because isur chalal isur, and therefore you get malchus for the bishul. Uman de amar eino loke kasavar ein isur chalal isur. Basar b'chalav was not created here because it's already asur as chaylev. So chaylev, the imavasha b'chalav, does not have the isur basar b'chalav. You can't add basar b'chalav to chaylev. This is not the same question, I'm saying this parenthetically, as behema tmeya. Right? There it's not an issue of isur chalal isur. If I cook horse meat in chalav, it's simply not basar b'chalav, because horse meat is not basar for the purposes of basar b'chalav, right? Because the Torah only said behemat tahora, and not a behemat tme'ah. That has nothing to do with isur chalal isur. It's just not the bona fide basar which we require. It would be like cooking milk and fish. That's not basar b'chalav, because fish is not considered basar for these purposes, right? Or cooking milk and spaghetti. The spaghetti isn't basar. So where is meheka teisa? Where you?
B'chalav is not basar at the end. It's a new entity.
No, but one of the but one of the elements is that it should be the bona fide basar which the Torah formulated for us through the eyes of Chazal. So it's basar behema tahora, maybe chaya also.
But I'm saying that whether the chaylev is basar or not basar is bona fide basar. I don't understand the question of...
Oh, no, right. So that's why it is, right, but it ain't isur chalal isur.
But it's not being chalam, it's a new entity. The combination of milk and meat together being usher is not, it's no longer called basar.
So that's a kasha. Don't ask me that. You can talk to the Gemara about that, right? I hear what you're saying, but the Gemara is relating to it as an isur being chal on this chayfetz, maybe in addition to a new mitziut, but it's also on this chayfetz, and that can't happen. And you can't have an isur basar b'chalav only on the chalav part either. Okay, we'll talk about that also, about the possibility of separating it, but not now. Okay.
But excuse me, if you would eat this basar tme'ah, the horse meat that was cooked in milk, then you could say it's isur chalal isur.
No.
If you eat it.
No, because no basar b'chalav.
On...
You're only over the isur of eating horse meat, which is behema tmeya. There's no other isur here.
Oh, and it's never considered basar b'chalav?
It's never considered basar b'chalav.
Because the activity of bishul
because it's not meat. The Torah said behema tahora. It's right. It's like being mavashel chalav and spaghetti. You'll never be over basar b'chalav on chalav and spaghetti.
Okay.
So you'll never be over basar b'chalav on horse meat.
Okay.
Isn't that a machloket rishonim?
Horse meat?
Yeah, but I thought the Bach says that it also is basar b'chalav.
No way, Ray.
Really?
No, impossible. I don't know the Bach Baal Peh, but he didn't say it. Okay, and let's continue. You can show me what you think about later. Okay, all right. So let's get back to here. So isur. So if I say isur chalal isur, it means that basar b'chalav was created. Since basar b'chalav was created, I'm loka on the bishul. If basar b'chalav was not created, then I'm not loka on the bishul. And the machloket, one take on the machloket Amoraim here is basar b'chalav created or not? And that's determined by an independent question that has to do with isur chalal isur, right? But is basar b'chalav created? Nobody disagrees with the principle that if basar b'chalav is created, then you get malchus for the bishul. The question is whether basar b'chalav is created, and that depends on some other question of isur chalal isur. Okay. Then the Gemara says, just hold on. Lo, D'chulei alma ein iser chalal iser. Everybody agrees basar b'chalav is not created. So then what's the machloket? Achila d'chulei alma lo pligi d'lo lucky. For basar b'chalav, right? You ate chalev. We're not talking about that, okay? So everybody agrees ein iser chalal iser. That means you're not lokeh for basar b'chalav for achila of what you did here, okay? Ki pligi abishul, but there's still a machloket about bishul. Man de amar lokeh chad isurahu. I didn't bring you Rashi here, did I? Chad isurahu. I'll read you Rashi. Kufi Gimel Amud Aleph. Chad isurahu. Hold on. Kufi Gimel Amud Aleph. I'm at bet. One second. Where am I? Here's the problem about computer printing. Oh, it's Amud. No, it's Amud bet. Right. Chad isurahu. Hold on. Kavaloka. Eres chazil. Where's the Rashi on Chad isurahu? Chad isurahu. Huh. Okay. I remember it as Rashi. I thought it was Rashi. I apologize. I remembered a Rashi in my head, but it's not here. Anyway, but what Chadi Surah means, I'm sure it's here, but I'm going to, it's like so sure it's here. The Chadi Surah means a separate Isser. Not one Isser, but a unique Isser. Okay? So the one who says, Mandam or Loke, everybody agrees there was no Basar B'chalav created, right? You with me? In this setup, everybody agrees that there's no malkot for eating this new ta'arovet, no malkot for Basar B'chalav, because ein iser chalal iser. But there's one opinion nonetheless that there's malkot for the bishul anyway, and that is chad isurahu. It's a unique and separate isser. Uman de amar eino lokeh for the bishul. Lahachi afka rachmana laachila b'loshon bishul. Kevan da al achila lo lucky, abishul nami lo lucky. The one who says that you don't get malkot for bishul chelev b'chalav says that this is because there was no basar b'chalav which was created. And that is why the Torah formulated the Isra Achila in the language of Bishul to tell you that if you do not create an Isra Achila, there's no Malkot for the Bishul. You with me? In other words, I could summarize this much more simply, right, is that the Isra, what is the Isra Bishul? The Isser Bishul is to create Basar B'chalav. This is the flip side, the opposite of, say, what Reish Lakish said, and what I presented as a possibility that came out just from the Limudim, where the Isser, what we said previously, the Torah said, don't be Mavashel Basar B'chalav. That's what we care about. And that's why we said it that way. And the Isser Achila is if you were over the Isser of what I said you shouldn't do, then I'm not going to let you eat it. But the source is not to be mevashel. Here it's the other way around. Right? Here, according to this, the 2 dayot are, everybody agrees there's no Isser Basar B'chalav created. The question is there an Isser Bishul when there's no Isser Basar B'chalav created? And that is the Isser Bishul separate from the Isser Achila? I don't care whether there's Basar B'chalav created. For whatever technical reasons, there's no creation of Basar B'chalav, because any Isser Chal Isser. But did you take Basar and mevashel it with Chalav? If the answer is yes, then you're chayav for Bishul. And I don't care about the outcome of that Bishul. That's a different parsha. Now you want to know, is that food that you created through the Bishul that you did, is that food Asr? So that's a separate question. Isser Chal Isser, Ein Isser Chal Isser, so we'll figure out whether it's mutar Asr to eat, as far as Basar B'chalav is concerned. Okay? So the first opinion, when it says Chad Surah, means it's a separate Isser. There are 2 separate Isurim in the Torah, and they're not related. They're only related as much that they're related to Basar B'chalav, but they're technically speaking not related. There's an Isser to Mevashel Basar B'chalav, and there's an Isser to eat Basar B'chalav. But they're 2 separate things. And you can show that by saying, I'll show you a situation where you can be over the Isser of being Mevashel Basar B'chalav, but there's no Basar B'chalav which is created. Because ain't Isser Chal Isser. Okay? Or
You didn't need to say that it wasn't created. You could have just said, you don't have to say that component. You could explain the same thing.
Yeah.
You're dissociating the Isser Achila from the Isser Bishul.
correct.
You do have Basar B'chalav. You have Basar B'chalav with respect to the Isser Bishul Basar B'chalav. You don't have the consequence. The Isser Achila can't be Chal.
But I'm talking about the relationship with the Isser Achila, yeah.
Right.
Well, Basar B'chalav created in terms of the Isser Achila.
Right.
Okay, fine. Because the Isser Bishul, an action is just the action, whereas the consequences is there. If this is Basar B'chalav, presumably it's Asr B'achila. Right? And Asr B'hana.
No, but you proved before. If it was Basar Tmeya, it wouldn't be Basar B'chalav.
Right,
So
because that's
it's
not...
met the threshold of Basar B'chalav. It's just that it's not.
No, it hasn't met. No, it hasn't met the Basar B'chalav threshold. It's not the Basar
You're over
B'chalav.
the Isser Bishul.
What, in Behemoth Tmeya?
No, by behemoth, if you hear
Right,
here,
okay.
even though there's chaylev,
Because there's no Isser to be Mevashel Chaylev. The only Isser is to eat Chaylev. So there's no Isser Chal
Right.
Isser on the Bishul.
Right.
Right?
It's the Mosif.
What?
It's the Davar Mosif.
No, don't talk about Mosif here. The Mosif is to be the Hana, not the Bishul. Because that has to do with the Chefetz. Okay. Hold on. Okay. All right. So now, according to this read of the Machloket Amora'im, the Machloket is over what is the Isser Bishul. Is the Isser Bishul, which I think intuitively we probably thought, the Isser Bishul is to create Basar B'chalav. Okay? Or no, that they're really 2 separate things. Okay? It's not dissimilar from Bayra Bayimatzeh. Right? Why is it Isser to have Chametz on Pesach? So maybe the Torah makes a Gzeira. The real problem with Chametz on Pesach is you don't want to eat Chametz on Pesach. But I so much don't want you to eat Chametz on Pesach, I don't want you to even have it in your house. Okay? So that's really the way the Rambam formulates it by Bishul. The reason that Basar B'chalav, did I bring you the Rambam here or not? I think I did, right? What's the language of the Rambam? No, the Rambam just in the Yad. Did I bring it? If I didn't, there's a question. No, I didn't bring you the Rambam from the Yad. The Rambam from the Yad, it's in Perek Tet in Chot Machalot Asurot. The Rambam says that the reason somebody must have it in the. You have it? In your.
I didn't bring it.
Okay, fine. The Rambam says the reason the Torah said Afka b'lashon Bishul, the reason the Torah said that Isser Achila in the language of Bishul, Lomar, this is the language of the Rambam, Afilu Bishulo Asur. That's like Bayra Bayimatzeh. Not only can't you eat it, you can't even have it. So not only can't you eat it when you talk about Basar B'chalav, you can't even cook it. Right? But the source is the eating it. So then it makes sense that the Isser, Bishul, Basar B'chalav, would only exist if, as a consequence, you create Machalot Asurot in Basar B'chalav. If I cook Basar B'chalav, it doesn't create Basar B'chalav, so then I have one over the Isser. The Isser is really to create Basar B'chalav. How do you create basar b'chalav? You cook basar b'chalav. It's the only way to create basar b'chalav. Right? But the Isser Bishul is derived from the Isser Achila. Okay? And that's a machloket Amoraim according to this take in the Gemara. Okay? So we continue. V'ika de Amre, a Bishul kule amalo pligi delaki. Now this is going to be the flip side. Everybody agrees that you get malchus for the Bishul. Ki pligi achila. Man de amar eino loke, da ein iser chalal iser. Man de amar loke, lahachi afkrak mar lachila b'loshen bishul, kevan da bishul lucky, achila nami lucky. It's the other way around. That it starts from the bishul. Okay? And if you revashal basar b'chalav, so you're over the iser bishul, and the Torah then says, if you're over the iser bishul, you also created machalot asurot. It's the other way around. Okay? Then it starts, and that fits better with learning it from Korban Pesach, right? Where we focus on the bishul. Okay? The last opinion here is, you see, from all these opinions, you really have come down to two different possibilities with just different ways of reading the machloket. But it comes down to two possibilities. Let's see. The last way is the ibait ema mar marchada v'mar marchada v'lo pligi. Okay, the one that says Yoloka on the bishul, and the one that says Ein Loka says Ein Loka on the achila. And there's no machloket. Okay, but from these four different permutations of the machloket amoraim, what really boils down to is really three possibilities. Right? One, which I think is the most mistaber, is that the Isser Bishul is derived from the Isser Achila. And the Isser is to create Basar B'chalav. And the only way to create Basar B'chalav is through Bishul. But that's the Isser Bishul. That's, maybe I'm influenced by the Rambam, Afilu Bishulo Asur. Okay? The other way is to take it entirely the opposite direction. That the core Isser is the Isser Bishul, and when you're over the Isser Bishul, so Memela it's also to eat. Okay? And the middle way, what the Gemara talks about, Chad Isura, is that they're really two separate things. There's an Isser Bishul, that's one thing. There's an Isser Chila, that's another thing. Right? Most of the time they come together, but there are test cases where you have one without the other, and that shows that they're independent Isurim. Okay? Now, this has ramifications for a machloket that we have here on Daf Kufchet Amud Bet. Here, a second. Take a look where I talk about Dinei Bishul. See that? Gufa. Are you with me? It's on the next to the last page, where it says Dinei Bishul, right? Kufchet Amud Bet.
That's on page 4. I have 10 pages.
Yeah, I have.
You printed the whole Prima Garden. Okay, I didn't print the Prima Garden.
So
We
it's
don't know
four?
what you're going to do.
No, I said.
You didn't say.
I did. I said it's a summary, and that's why. Okay. Just say that. Just do it anyway. But okay. Look. Okay. Dinei Bishul. Okay. So it's the next last page before the Prima Garden. Gufa. Chatzi zayit basar. V'chatzi zayit chalav. Shebishlam ze im ze. Before you see this Gemara, I think for sure that's basar b'chalav, right? Amar Rav, loke al achilato, ve'eno loke al bishulo. Right? You mevashel it, but you don't get malchus for the bishul, but you get malchus for the achila if you eat it afterwards. Bizarre, okay? And the Gemara is going to say it's bizarre. So the Gemara asks right away, manavshach. If you say chatzi zayit and chatzi zayit, if they add up, a bishul nami lilki, so you get malchus on the bishul too, because you mavashel a kizayit of basar b'chalav, right? V'ilo mitzdarfe, if you tell me that you need a kizayit of each, that's the alternative. When it says basar, it means a kizayit of basar. When it says chalav, you need a kizayit of chalav. If that's the case, achila nami lo lilki. Like decide, if you need a kazayit of each, so then you need it for both achila and bishul. If you don't need a kazayit of each, so you don't need it, and if you just need a kazayit sachakol, so then be consistent. So the Gemara says, La'olam lo mitztarfe, according to Rav. That means a chatzizayit of each. If you mavashel it, you wouldn't get malchus for the bishul. And then if you ate what you were mavashel, you also wouldn't get malchus, even though you ate a kazayis of basar b'chalav. But that's right, okay. It says l'olam lo mitztarfe. So how do you explain the discrepancy? Ubiva miyorag gdola. You're loke on the achila because it was cooked. It was originally cooked with a kazayit of basar and a kazayit of chalav. So it's what's called litzdadin ktani. It's a fast one, right? He's talking about two different situations. He says, when are you not loka for chatzizayit of basar, chatzizayit of chalav and bishul? If you started off with the chatzizayit of this and the chatzizayit of that, and you mavashel them together, you don't get malchus. In other words, he holds you need a kazayit of each. And in basar b'chalav, you only have to eat a kazayit sachakol of basar b'chalav to get malchut. But it had to be mavushal originally with a kazayit of each. Okay? That's bivami yorag dola. It was ready mavushal. There was a whole big feast they made. And they had basar b'chalav. And then you took one kazayit sachakol of basar b'chalav and you ate it. So that you get malchus. Okay? That's litzdadin ketani.
Wait, I understood that you said about the pshat of the Gemara, Le'olam lo mitztarfe meant they're not mitztarfe neither for...
That's what Gemara is asking. So they're not.
Meaning that if you eat a chatzizayit of each, you won't get lashes.
Right, if that's how it was cooked. But if it was cooked, if you started off, you have a kazayit of each, and you cook them together, and then you take a little bit, and you only eat part of that, you still get malchus. That's bivami yorag dola. Okay?
What is the word yorah?
Yorah is a pot.
Oh, a pot.
A big,
Well, yorag dola is a big pot. It means it's just big enough to have two kazaitim is what you really care about. Okay? Not such a big pot. Okay? Even the Chazon Ish's pots. Okay? Okay. So what comes out of here is that Rav holds that for the Isser Bishul, okay, let's concentrate on that. For the Isser Bishul, you require a kazayit of basar and a kazayit of chalav. If you mavasha less than a kazayit of each, even though there's a kazayit sachakol, you don't get malchus, and it doesn't create basar b'chalav. Okay? That's Rav. Okay? Levi Amar, af loke al bishulo. No, you're loke on the bishul. If you're mavashel chatzizayit basar and chatzizayit chalav together, you're loke on the bishul. V'chein tani Levi b'matnitin kishem shalokal achilato kach lokal bishulo. Okay, just like on the achila, the shear achila is a kazayit. This is key. The shear of the bishul is kazayit, and that comparison is very, very important if you bear in mind our whole discussion beforehand. Kishem shelukel achilato kach lokel bishulo. So now you have a nafkamina, okay, between these two tfisot. Do I focus on the isra achila, or do I say that the bishul is separate from the achila, or maybe that the bishul is the whole point? Right? The question is, what's the shear? If I talk about the isra achila, so the isra achila, which is basically what Levi says, kishem shelo ke'al achilato kein lo ke'al bishulo. The isra achila of basar b'chalav is a kazayit sachakol. As you said, it's something new. It's basar b'chalav. So how much basar b'chalav do you have to eat? It's like kol haTorah kula, a kazayit. How much nevela do you have to eat to get malchus? A kazayit. How much basar b'chalav do you have to eat? A kazayit. That's the shir achila. No one contests that that's the shir achila. So then what's the shir bishul? Well, if the isser bishul is to create the isser achila, so the shir bishul is also kazayit sachakol. That's what I care about. But if I say that the bishul is separate You have to be mevashel basar b'chalav. So then it's reasonable to assume, okay, I have to have basar and I have to have chalav, and the isser is to mevashel to 2 of them. So I need a kazayit of each. So the machloket between Rav and Levi, it's still going? Yeah. The machloket between Rav and Levi is, you can factor that back in, so to speak, into the different deyot and the machloket amoraim about ein isser chalal isser. Namely, if you say, and this is like a very simple nafkamin when you just detach yourself from it, what's the sheer bishul? Is it a kazayit of each, or is it a kazayit tzachakol? If it's kazayit tzachakol, then the isser bishul is to create isser achila. If it's a kazayit of each, then it's a distinct isser of which you need a shear of each element. Okay? So that's in terms of the quantity which is required. Okay? Now let's talk about something else. Let's continue in this Gemara.
And according to Levi, there's no bottom line. In other words, if you have a drop of milk and a kazayas of basar, according to Levi...
or kazayas less a drop.
Right.
Right?
That would be sufficient to...
As long as you have mesinas tam. That's their bishul. You would have to have netinat tam. Yes. Exactly. Okay. Let's continue the Gemara here. Ube'eze bishul amru. What does that mean? Bebishul she'acherim ochlim oto machmat bishula. Because how mavushal is mavushal. Okay? So Rashi says, acherim ovdei kochavim. Klomar, shenit bashel kol tzarko. Okay, shenit bishul kol tzarko. In order to be over the isser, bishul, basa b'chalav, it has to be mavushal kol tzarko. Okay? The Ritva, that's really funny. Pirish Rashi, umot ha'olam uchlim oto shenit bashel kol tzarko. Ad kan. Umistar b'dechol tzarko, hainu k'machal ben drusai. Okay. Shederech umot ha'olam le'echol kain. I don't know, maybe he's thinking about, he was in Seville, so maybe they ate the meat from the bullfights afterwards, and it was k'machal ben drusai, and they weren't mevashel kol tzarko. I don't know. That would be an interesting thing to see if how people ate meat in France was different than how people ate meat in Spain. Okay? Stop. Okay. In any case, we have a machloket rishonim. Okay? Whether the bishul has to be mavushal kol tzarcho or kamachal ben drusai is sufficient. Okay? Kamachal ben drusai is either shlish bishul, chatzi bishul, it's just a little raw, but it's edible. Okay? We could tie this back into the same question. Okay? Because you could say, and this I'm up there, I'm not totally committed to this, right? But I have an intuition, this is just my learning methodology, and you're welcome to be cholek on it if you want, is to try to reduce the number of independent questions and to try to find some question around which the whole sugya revolves, right? It's almost an aesthetic sense, right? My aesthetic sense tells me that this question of whether the sheer bishul is kamachal, when you talk about the quality of bishul, not about how much you have to be mevashel, but the quality of the bishul, whether it's mevushal kol tzarcho or machal ben drusai, should be connected to the nature of the isser of the bishul. Okay? If you don't want to accept that, I'm okay with that. Okay? But so what I want to hypothesize is that if I talk about it as being mevushal kol tzarcho, then my focus is on the outcome. Whereas if I talk about kamachal ben drusai and say it's barely edible, so that's it. Then what is considered bishul in terms of the act of bishul, right? So obviously the act of bishul depends on some sort of outcome, right? If on Shabbos you throw a chicken in the oven, right, and then a second later you remember and you take it out. So you weren't over the Issa Bishul. Right? Because Bishul depends, the definition of the action is dependent upon the outcome, right? If you pull the trigger on the gun but you don't kill anybody, you didn't kill anybody. It's the same physical thing, even if you were aiming. So it's just attempted murder. Right?
Still defining the outcome in terms of eating it as opposed to using
yes, because Bishul is what, right. It's a delicate point, but Bishul is connected when you talk about food, as opposed like on Shabbos you also have bishul matechet, you have bishul of inanimate objects also, to prepare them, to use them for what they need to be used for, okay? But bishul, by definition of what it is, also takes into consideration the outcome, okay? So, but the question is, when I talk about bishul k'machal ben drusai, so my